Good evening. Welcome to the Pleasantville Village Board meeting. Today is Monday, July 20. If you are watching today, Monday, July 20, we invite your calls. If any comments or questions you might have, you can call in live at 769-1677. Again, if you're watching on the 20th and not on a rerun, we're sitting here happy to talk to you, 769-1677. Be reminded again that we're now a couple of months into the option of watching our meetings not only on cable TV but also on a live web stream at the new PCTV website, which is pctv76.org. So you have the option of watching a live video stream of Village Board meetings on the web, and you can also go to that website, pctv76.org, to see on-demand video of past meetings, as well as lots of other content that PCTV offers, as well as content from the school district. So it's a great resource. I wholeheartedly recommend you go and visit. Our next scheduled meeting is going to be Monday, August 10 at 8 p.m. with a work session at 7. In the months of July and August, we're on an every other week schedule, and then come September, we'll be back to our every Monday night schedule. So next meeting is Monday, August 10. Just had a couple of things I wanted to mention before we got into our regular agenda of business. And the first is that last night there was a serious fire on Orchard Street. And
Great Oak.
I'm sorry, Great Oak. It reminds us of the remarkable service the Pleasantville Volunteer Fire Department offers. 11 at night, fire coming out of the roof of a house, and not only is the Pleasantville Fire Department there, but the police department did a great job, and all the neighbors rallied in true Pleasantville fashion to help in any way they could. So that comes about only a year after we had that very serious fire at Foxwood, and,
right,
those residents are soon to get back in their new reconstructed building.
And our ambulance corps as well. Our volunteer ambulance corps.
Absolutely, the Pleasantville Volunteer Ambulance Corps. Everybody did a great job last night in a situation that was horrible and difficult and will be hard to recover from, but blessedly was not tragic in the way it might have been. So it's one of those nights you realize that living in a small town is a pretty good place to be in a situation like that. So thanks to all those people who serve in that way, and here's hoping they have less to do. So we seem to have had a bit of a run of that. There are a couple of other things I wanted to mention, and one was the county government sent us a request that we let people know that they are offering tomorrow, Tuesday, July 21, and Wednesday, July 22, a financial helpline for residents who are interested in receiving reliable information about financial issues that affect them. So it's a special 2-day phone bank between the hours of 4 and 8 p.m. tomorrow, Tuesday the 21st, or Wednesday the 22nd. You can call 211 on your phone and ask confidential questions about financial-related topics such as budgeting, debt management, student loans, foreclosure, and consumer scams. The county will be providing financial experts who will offer free advice as well as referrals to other free and low-cost services in a program that's co-sponsored by the Westchester government and the United Way. So anyone interested in that, tomorrow and Wednesday between 4 and 8, dial 211 on your phone, and you can take advantage of the county financial helpline. We have several other things to talk about, and we have a public hearing, but is there anyone in the audience that had something they wanted to bring to our attention before we go ahead? Well, welcome. Welcome.
Joe Carella, 9 Booth Street. Mayor, when is Booth Street going to be paved?
This summer. I don't know exactly what the schedule is, but Steve Johnson has told us that he's worked out a cooperative arrangement with Mount Pleasant, and our end of Booth Street will be paved by us, and Mount Pleasant at the same time will pick up and go the rest of the way. Do you know when exactly it's going to happen?
When I spoke to Steve about coordinating neighbor notifications, because Ashland started a lot quicker than we thought it would start up, I asked him about Booth Street, and he said that the town's end is still being coordinated. He's expecting something late August.
You mean the work
Yeah.
late August? I mean, he assured us when we last met that it was this summer.
This summer. The street has gotten worse since we sent you those 4 photographs
Right.
in March.
Right.
Pavements, there's chunks of it.
Yeah,
Right.
it
It's
has.
getting broken up. There's potholes. It's getting worse. It isn't getting any better.
I know that, and we are going to do it this summer. It's actually on the schedule. Patty, could you find out exactly what Steve thinks
I will.
as far as the schedule?
Absolutely. Sure.
The rain hasn't helped
and get
either,
back
I'm
to
sure.
him?
Well, the pavement takes a big
Yeah.
This is like the only...
No, I know, I drove down there myself, it's quite rutted, but help is on the way, and within the next 6 weeks, right?
Right.
I wonder if you could give Patty your phone number.
I
just
have it.
pri-
No,
pri-
I think I have it, Joe.
I can give it to
Or
you.
your email, or whatever's a convenient way to reach you, just so when we have the exact schedule, she can shoot you a note. But help is on the way.
All right, another thing. Has the village contacted McDonald's in regards to trash bins along Marble Avenue? The bulk of the litter that we have here is
It's
from
true.
McDonald's.
All over the community is
Well,
McDonald's.
bulk of
I don't know that we have, do we have, of course, they're not actually the village of Pleasantville, but they're affecting us, certainly.
But
Yeah, yeah, no, I
most of
understand.
the traffic
Yeah.
walks through Pleasantville. It's on all our lawns. It's
Well, I mean, is it your thought that they would provide and then maintain them?
either them or the village or somebody should
Yeah.
put some strategic trash bins out here on Marble Avenue. I mean, they go through the side streets as well, and they're putting it on people's lawns. It's all over the place. It looks terrible out there. Figure maybe at least if there's trash bins, people might use them.
I'd rather not have McDonald's logos on trash bins if we can.
Well, but it's a
Yeah.
good point. I
Yeah,
mean, we may
it's,
have to
yeah.
put some on Marble. The Sunnyside extension was trashed this weekend. I saw it myself. In fact, I called them to pick up, our guys to pick it up. It was really bad.
Well,
And it was all McDonald's bags and cups and things.
Trash in the city.
Yeah,
they
they
just
just
throw it
throw it
out
out
the
our
window. The
window
kids just throw it out the window.
by the cemetery.
It happens
over
by
there.
my house on the other side of town. all
of
the
course,
time.
someone's going to throw McDonald's trash out the window is not going to put it in
Well,
the trash
a
can.
lot of
with
it
it.
Right.
is, there's a lot of
Yeah,
foot
I
traffic
know.
out here at all
Yeah.
hours of the day and night.
Well, what would be the best places for it, do you think? You know, at the end of each street, or?
Yeah, like at least on the corners, because
Yeah, yeah.
you got the St. George booth, Stanley, a
Right.
couple of them that
We have a
way,
lot of
over
people
towards
walking
by
there. We do. A
Granville
lot of
Reyes.
people are walking.
Well, so it's a reasonable point. Can we ask Steve to comment on that and whether he has enough, I mean, I assume the sanitation crew has enough time to add some extra bins to their
They
pickup?
do.
The only concern I have with reacting to people's habits is that the habits are really what need to be addressed. And I've said before that I think the school district should have in-school programs for the students to address the issues of kids throwing garbage on the street and just discarding it. And it's not just the kids, but we do know there's some areas around town where kids are getting things to eat during the lunch hour, and we've heard from a number of folks that those simply go out onto the street. And I can tell you, my house, and I'm on Bedford down by Ashland, every weekend I'm picking up, and pretty much every day folks park on the side street, the kids get out of the car, chuck the candy wrappers, the beer cans in the weekend. I mean, it's really kind of atrocious. And the thing is that we have a school board, school district, and I really think that it would make a whole lot of sense for our school district to spend a little bit of time on in-school programs, and I think we have a board member here who might be able to take some of this back, for the kids. For the kids. Because, that correcting the behavior is much more important, I think, to us as a community than putting more garbage bins out, because that's just saying,
Well, I'm not just saying children. Now, I'm out here walking my dog late at night.
You're right, we shouldn't
They're not
just,
young
we shouldn't.
children, but the
You're
thing
right.
is, if you go down New York, you'll see trash bins. The idea is people have trash. They're going to dispose of it.
You missed this.
So the
Yeah,
incentive
I
is,
agree.
yes, there's a garbage bill here. Please use it and not our lawns and our streets, regardless of who they are.
I agree with you. I mean, we do have the issue of how many we can service, but we certainly
Yeah,
can,
it's the same letter.
choose priority spots, and that route back to McDonald's is obviously a high litter spot. I know we added a trash
Came in
bin
tonight.
on Clinton Street down at the foot of the hill from the high school for that same reason. The school had once had one and then withdrew it, and so we had to pick up the slack there. So,
Why'd you withdraw that, so?
I don't feel also it's always the school's business to discipline children. I believe that's the parents' job.
Right.
Where
Well-
I come from, it was the parents that...
But the education
It is.
can occur within the school district. I was telling the board a few meetings ago that in one of the communities that I work in a lot, the mayor had the occasion to participate with one of the local school teachers in a green program that was addressed at the kids. All the kids who participated in the program got a green name of your community t-shirt, and they became ambassadors within the school system for getting their fellow students and others to pick up. And it's made a dramatic amount of difference, and the kids were proud of
All
it.
right, if you want to at least, give the children an incentive for civic pride a little, but it's not only them, it's just...
I understand. You're
I-
right. You're right.
I-
It's not.
People everywhere.
All right, so Patty will get back to you about the specific dates when we know them.
He's got one more thing, though. I
oh,
could
go
tell
ahead.
there's something else coming.
One other thing too, this after-hours parking on Booth and Francis, this has to be abolished because streets are narrow. Thankfully, we haven't had the need for emergency vehicles to try to get through there, but there's too many people with their cars. There's homeowners, they're tenants and their guests. They need to take these vehicles off these streets even on the weekends because they block people's driveways and we have little accidents that are unnecessary.
So you'd like to see no parking on the Pleasantville end of Booth? Which is
Pleasantville-
only, what, just past your house, and then it turns into
Three
Mount Pleasant,
houses,
right?
yes, it's those 3 houses
Uh-huh.
plus MLA. They block the driveway and sometimes people back out and we have unnecessary collisions.
I could be wrong, but didn't we have this discussion at one point, and the other neighbors at the end of that block in those other houses, was there unity among the three of you for doing that?
No, the person across the street from me wanted parking because he has an
Yeah.
overflow of vehicles.
Okay, I knew that there was
It wasn't-
some argument to the contrary on that, because I know that we have looked at this issue.
It wasn't myself and Nazar across the street, it was the other fella, and it's not...
Did we reduce some parking though on Booth Street from the corner to?
No, it's just, you can park there after hours, weekends,
Oh, after
holidays,
hours,
but
okay,
there's
that's-
just too darn many vehicles over
Yeah.
here. They need to be, we only got all these driveways and, you got all these vehicles out there.
Yeah.
All right, so we'll take a look at that as well. Your goal, if you were able to write a code for that, what would you say? No parking?
No parking at any time on that street. In fact,
Well,
I don't...
what
I
would
don't
you say? I mean, we only have jurisdiction over the Pleasantville end
Pleasantville
of,
side, all right, well, at least for the Pleasantville,
So,
because you can't deal with
which is
Mount
only a
Pleasant on
few hundred
Francis.
feet.
180
Right,
feet or
yeah.
Yeah, you can't deal with Mount Pleasant on the Francis side. They go to St. George. Nobody lives on St. George. I don't know why Mount Pleasant doesn't allow parking over there. Let the overflow go over there. But Booth Street, no.
All right, well, I mean, in the end, that part of it would have to be something you'd take up to the Mount Pleasant Town Council.
The other
Because
side, yeah.
we can only address the end of the street.
Yes, at least the
So, but
Pleasantville
we will
side.
look at it.
We'll eliminate the parking on Booth Street on the Pleasantville side.
I mean, we don't typically have no parking at any time
Anytime,
on residential
anywhere,
streets. That's not typical.
You'd have to restrict it to 2 hours or
I mean, what
2-hour
would
parking.
people
Are
do
they
when they
leaving it
have...
overnight, their cars, or are they just parking them there for days? Are they registered
Yeah.
vehicles?
We had an accident yesterday because somebody's got to block the driveways. The streets are too narrow. They shouldn't be over there.
You mean they're just too close to the driveway, or?
They're parked across from the driveway. People
So
come
you
out.
back out into somebody? Yeah, that happens on a lot of our streets, though. A lot of our streets are very narrow. I did that to my neighbor, I hate to say it, but
Well, if you had
I
no...
did do it.
we should probably have a more detailed discussion of
Yeah,
when we've actually
the-
looked at it. But
yeah.
I just want to...
That maybe go to the Public Safety Committee.
Yeah,
Yeah.
that sounds like a
I mean,
reasonable thing.
MLA picks up a lot, not MLA,
Family
Family
Medical.
Medical has all that land over there, and, I mean, people should go park in their lot or park over by their place, but they're all over, you got all these driveways over here on Booth Street, and they're blocking your driveway, so you're gonna have accidents.
No, I understand the problem. By the same token, if we say no parking at all, that may limit people's capacity to have guests and whatever.
Well, let them
Yeah.
put them in their driveways, because people at my house park on my driveway. I don't allow it on the street.
Right.
So I have that much decency for the other people around
Yeah.
here.
All right, well, we will look. So 3 items. Parking, trash cans, and when will the repaving occur? But as I reported, it's this summer.
Okay.
Help is on the way, at least on that. On that front, we're already at rounding third base on our way home. So,
Okay, Mayor, thank you, everybody.
thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thanks, Jeff.
Anybody else? Sure. Saul Skolnick is here, executive director, co-executive director of the Pleasantville Music Festival. And we will take advantage of his presence to get a quick report on what was really a very successful day on June 11th, July 11th. Hi.
I just wanted to take this opportunity actually to thank the trustees and the mayor and Patty and Judy and the village and everybody who worked towards making it what it was, which was the most successful Pleasantville Music Festival we've ever had. We're still tabulating the exact number, but there's no question we had better attendance in total than we've ever had, unlike what was written in the paper, which was not correct. It was the best attended one.
Sam, what'd you do?
Whoever wrote it didn't ask. At any rate, we just want to say thank you on behalf of Richard and myself and everybody, and the 125 to 152 and a half volunteers. Being in Pleasantville, it's a wonderful opportunity to turn a day into something that people in the village, people throughout Westchester now, can really appreciate. Had a wonderful time. The musicians had a great time, and it's a unique event. And just thank you very much for making it possible.
Well, thank you and
Great job.
Rich. I think many of the viewers know that Saul is, in addition to his volunteer tasks on behalf of the village on the music festival, also a school board member and recently elevated to the rank of president. And so this is a guy who's...
Is that right? I didn't know that.
You should read his papers.
But he might not get it right.
At any rate,
Oh, they're picking on you now, Sam.
it is yeoman service on behalf of the village, on the school district, and one point worth making, I think, about the music festival, and I noticed it several times during the day, and in fact had a conversation with one of the Pleasantville policemen who was there, that I can't remember seeing such a multi-generational day at any event. When Davy Knowles and Backdoor Slam were up there, there were a whole crowd of people coming up toward the stage, including lots of high school kids and college kids and lots of 50 and 60-somethings who were equally excited about what was going on. So it was a very nice experience to see that going on.
So we just ask, all things being equal, mark your calendars for July 10th of 2010, and please don't take vacation so we can get to the next level.
Thank you.
Thank you, Saul.
Have a wedding.
I have a small list of things to update people on, but we also have a public hearing on parking prohibition, which maybe we'll go to now. I wanted to mention a couple of people have inquired about the status of the Church Street sidewalk review by Adler Consulting, and I have a couple of times said next week, and now I'm here to say this week, even though I expected we would have it now. There's been some back and forth with our attorney making certain that, in his opinion, all the questions we asked to be answered were answered, and I understand we should have the report within the next day or so, and when we have it, we'll distribute it around to anybody who's interested in getting it, as well as obviously to the board. So that's the update on that front. So we have a public hearing on parking prohibition, certain hours on Weskora Avenue. Is there a motion to open the public hearing?
So moved.
Second?
Second.
The public hearing is regarding amending Chapter 173, Vehicles and Traffic, Section 173-63, Schedule 15, parking prohibited certain days and hours as follows. On the east side of Weskora Avenue, from Manville to Spring. Should that be Pleasantville Road to Spring?
This is what the chief is recommending. It should be, yes, I mean, at that point, it's Pleasantville Road. Yes.
There is a Manville to Spring.
Right, there is no Manville to Spring.
No, there isn't, no.
It's Pleasantville Road to Spring Street, right?
Yeah, yeah.
On the east side of Weskora Avenue from Pleasantville Road to Spring Street, the proposed law would establish a prohibition against parking from 10 a.m. to 11 a.m. Monday to Friday. And the reason this has come up is that quite a number of the residents in the neighborhood have expressed concern that their neighborhood has become a commuter parking zone, and we have similar such regulations in various other neighborhoods that are close to the downtown in order to avoid a circumstance where lots of people end up parking there and clogging up the neighborhood in an effort to avoid paying for a permit or parking elsewhere. So, any comments? Anyone interested in commenting on this is welcome to call us, 769-1677.
We're finding a map.
Do we have a map?
Put it up on our GIS district.
Wow. All right. Well, shall we turn the light
So
off?
we get that light
a
off
little
there.
bit so we can see. wow, look at that.
Yeah.
Does that help, Shane?
It certainly does.
All right, this
Let
will,
me just take this one thing off.
thanks, Shane.
Yep. And then we need to have someone near a mic to explain it.
Oh, you
Okay,
can.
yeah, I'm here right now. I think this will work. The pointer is on Weskora Avenue. What we are considering is a parking restriction on the east side from Pleasantville Road down to Spring Street, which is just at the corner of Roselle Park. It would be a 1-hour parking prohibition.
All the way down?
Yeah.
Including Roselle Avenue and...
Those 2 blocks, right?
These 2 blocks right here.
Why wouldn't we do it on all of Weskora?
Well,
I
This is
mean,
probably where-
if somebody parks on that block where the
I mean, you have this,
the
it's
park
a-
is, why wouldn't they just go 30 more feet and park just across the street?
It's
on
it's
the
up
other side
for,
of
you
Spring
know, it was up
Street.
for discussion. I think the comments we've gotten from the residents that asked us to consider this were all located around the park. You know, I don't, at this point, think we should close the hearing. I think we should leave it open till the next board meeting so I can get some more resident comments in case they are away.
Are people parking just on Weskora, not on Spring Street?
People
Not
are
on
parking...
Roselle?
Yeah, Roselle.
I think there are restrictions already on Spring and Roselle.
Those same
There are 1-hour limits,
restrictions,
right.
really?
Mm-hmm.
Oh, okay.
So the chief recommended we keep the hour consistent, you know, for parking enforcement in the area, because these are restricted.
Well, we don't need to even keep it open. I mean, I don't have a problem. If it turns out that they start parking further down, then we can
Right down
have
to the dead
another
end.
hearing to extend it.
Yeah, I think that makes sense. I mean, in essence, we know that the neighbors felt this was the important step to take,
Right.
so,
It's mostly for commuter parking issues that I
Right.
see a lot of commuters parking there now.
Okay.
all right?
Good.
And I only have, you know, requests from several
there they are.
neighbors to put the prohibition.
They're waving to us.
They're the commuters right there.
Yeah, there they are. They're-
All right.
Patty,
Starting
have
a
you
jam
gotten a lot
cam.
of input, or...
I have correspondence from one resident who has spoken to, as she said, many others who are all in favor of it, but I have none of them responding as of tonight, you know, officially. So I thought we'd introduce it. It is summer. It's hard to get people
Yes,
together.
that's
So
true.
we'll get the ball rolling.
So based on that, you think it's prudent to adjourn the hearing and continue it
Yes.
later
Right.
and not vote on that resolution tonight?
That's right.
Okay.
Yeah. Sure.
Yes.
You're welcome. Come, got to ask you to come to the mic, though.
You could, can you see? Theda, can you see? Yeah. Okay.
Yeah, don't trip over anything.
My
Put the
name's
blue
Rita
light on.
White. My youngest child is close to 40, so I don't use Weskora Park very often, although I do take my grandsons there, and I live at the other end of town. So what happens to the moms of young children who want to make a stop at Roselle Park before lunch to wear the kids out so they take a nap after lunch? They can't park if all of the consistent hour of no parking is 10 to 11.
That's a reasonable point. Perhaps
So I
if
just-
it's 10 to 11 on Roselle and Spring, perhaps this should be 9 to 10 or 1 to 2 or whatever.
That's a good
It's
point,
just
Theda.
Yeah.
Thank you.
a thought.
A reasonable point.
And you could see how people have been parking all around the park here.
I mean, in essence, the reason to have no parking for 1 hour is just to make it impossible to park there all day and leave your car.
That's right. That's the only reason why they have the
I
restrictions
think
in
Theda's
place.
point is well taken. The purpose is not to discourage people coming to the park.
Right.
All right, so that's a matter also to be addressed if we can figure out exactly what the rules are, Patty, for Roselle and Spring.
Right, and for the extension of Weskora
Right,
as well. We'll
right.
see what's going on down the end.
All right, so unless there's further comment on that, we will adjourn that public hearing but not close it and propose to pick it up again at our next regular meeting, which is Monday, August 10th.
Yes.
Okay, motion to close?
So,
Second?
Second.
Okay, I'm sorry, not close, motion to adjourn.
Yes.
Okay. Well, we have the lights off. The other thing we wanted to let people know is that we are about to mobilize the week of August 3rd, the construction project that will revise the intersection of Bedford Road where it curves out towards Pace and abuts Pleasantville Road, that corner right by Luck Oil and Heller Shoes, 7-Eleven, et cetera. So Patty has some images that she can walk us through just to remind the community of what will be going on there. In the end, a new traffic light will be installed there, as well as really very substantial pedestrian improvements. So if you could walk us through what's going to happen there, Patty,
Yeah,
to remind people.
I'd be happy to. As the mayor mentioned, we expect this contract to start on or about August 3rd. It should run anywhere from 6 to 9 months in length, because we will be running into the fall and the winter months. We expect a punch list to be left for the spring, probably the tree planting and the like. But essentially, this first screen shows the entire scope of the project and the limits of the project as they currently exist. This southwestern end, where it's labeled Stage 1 and Stage 2, is basically the area where Dunkin' Donuts and 7-Eleven
Right.
is.
You've got Dunkin' Donuts and Carvel here,
That's right.
7-Eleven over here,
That's
Luck
right.
Oil over here, Key Foods up there, Subway and Art of Wine down here.
That's the perfect orientation. And Stage 4, all the way at this end here over Trustee Cunningham's head, that is Jean-Jacques' corner, and where the photo store is right here. Thank you. Thank you, Vanna.
Cunningham Corners.
The Vanna White of
Let me
Pleasantville
talk a little
Burton.
bit about the detail so you can see what's happening. There are significant improvements here, all intended to improve the pedestrian experience.
So again, be reminded that this is just zeroing in.
Right. That's
Key Foods is
Key Food,
here,
right.
Luck Oil is here, Century Gas is here, Carvel and Dunkin' Donuts, 7-Eleven over here. And this will end up as a signalized intersection.
What I like about Key Food is, right now, as most of you know, this heavy dotted line is the property line. Key Food has just a very large swath of macadam for their driveway. We are going to define that better with a planted mulch bed to allow a very clearly defined ingress and egress and a clearly defined curb cut, but new sidewalk with stone ribbon and with tree plantings all the way up this corridor of Pleasantville Road to green it and to give it better definition. The most significant
Street trees, or what kind
real
of
street trees.
Really?
Yeah, real street trees. The most significant improvement is on the opposite side, where you have Heller's and the small gas station. Right now, the existing sidewalk is lost, covered over with blacktop all the way out beyond this property line, which is this heavy dotted line. We are going to restore that sidewalk and put in, again, a really nice planted screen to follow the curve of that corner. In addition, as the mayor mentioned, you can see the new crosswalk system that's going in. This is going to be very pedestrian friendly with a walk cycle, as well as basically these islands for refuse where people can stow themselves as they cross over. In keeping with the traffic flow on the Bedford Road corridor, you could see that we are keeping where this match line AA is. This is where 7-Eleven essentially the driveway is. We're keeping that free right turn so we can keep traffic flowing by a yield to the right down Bedford Road. But this is the crux of the project. This was intended to be done under the Safe Routes to School program. We were actually able to get it funded under a block grant. It was that recognized as that significant by the county. These are both county roads. This is a county intersection under county control, and the design and all of the traffic studies have been performed by the county, and it's demonstrating that signalization will actually improve traffic flow on this corridor. And
Where are the signals going to be?
you will see, you don't see it here because it's a whole separate plan sheet, but right where this X is here, where you can see that mouse moving,
Yeah.
that's where your traffic light will be. There'll be overhead. You'll see stanchions. You know, it's not like, there'll be overhead lights, obviously. And there'll be pedestrian signals on these, with walk cycles on these small islands.
Will we have not pole signals, right? I mean, how do
Yes, they
how
will.
do people know if you're going along Hellers and you're going towards up Bedford Road? How do you know when you have to stop? You can't be
Yeah.
looking at the light way over there by...
You would be able to, you have to certainly look behind you here, because again, there's a free right yield here, coming down from Hellers.
Right.
But here would be the pedestrian walk cycle button, to cross either this way or north-south. All of that is really, it meets certain standards that, have to be designed by National Highway Safety and other roadway standards, so.
So Patty, we should also reach out to beautification, because they do such a beautiful job with the traffic islands, but now that island is changing quite a bit.
It's changing, but
So-
we restored a planting area here, which won't be as, it just won't be as, the one we had actually gets overgrown and becomes more of an obstruction over time. This actually will be a very sophisticated planting area as well,
Well,
and it will be better for
I
site
just wondered whether
visibility.
we can, they may
Yeah.
want to capture some of that plant material. We don't want to lose it.
Oh, absolutely. Kathy and I had spoken about
Okay.
that already. Thank you.
Will this be beautification that works on that?
I'm going to talk to Suzette about it. She has some ideas, but certainly, we
We should
need,
certainly get beautification in the mix on that.
right. We need to be sure that I can get the water that we had, set up at the island over there too, so we can get water on that site. But the sidewalks networks here are going to be critical, and we are going to eventually carry them down. We, if you remember, the Conways came in about a month ago on Parkway Terrace, asked us to consider some sidewalks to be able to loop that street as well, and we are getting permits from the state to allow us to do that as an extra, an alternative under this project. We're going to get some quotes. Eventually, this entire area will be a lot more pedestrian friendly, and the sidewalk network will finally connect to the downtown in an appropriate way. The third slide, it's a little, let me just see if I can line it up. Again, this first illustration with match line A on the right and area B labeled on the bottom is the sidewalks leading from Pace University down past Carvel and on the north end, and the 7-Eleven on the south. It just shows the new tree pits that are going in and the detail of the sidewalk and the areas for trash receptacles and pressed concrete and the like. This is heading toward the traffic signal.
Are there any
As you pass.
overhead wires along that side?
We are not creating any new overhead wires. All of the traffic signal wires will be underground.
So the street trees here can also be
Well,
big trees.
it's going to be an issue. It depends how Suzette was able to work around some of the utilities. There are a lot of utilities here. Let me just see where. I went back. There are a lot of utilities, Brian. We had trouble on that corridor planting.
Right.
But
How far down Bedford Road on the west side of the street would the new sidewalk extend? Would it go past
we intend to
the-
go over the Sawmill Bridge.
Oh, so
Yeah,
right now,
to Parkway
it ends
Terrace.
around the VW Ford parking lot?
That's right.
Storage area?
Right.
And so it would go over the bridge? The bridge probably
That's-
already has a walkway.
Right. We had to limit the scope originally, but we had the plans to go all the way to Parkway Terrace, and we're going to put those back in place because we have the money to do that. So, in fact, we had gotten a letter complaining about that area recently.
Does Parkway Terrace have anything on one side of the street?
No.
Do they have anything at all?
No.
Yeah.
So it would be helpful to eventually tie those in. Just further down on this slide, this illustration on the left with match line BB shows the Cooley Street intersection improvements. I don't think I can
So
get
again,
this any
here's
higher here.
Subway, here's the Art of Wine,
Yes.
there's the corner of the Lukoil property, and then this is that open parking lot adjacent to Mediterranean.
Right, and again, this round curb here by Lukoil is the existing curb line. You can see we're going to narrow the throat of Cooley Street, make it a little easier for people to understand how to cross and for cars to understand how to turn here. There's been a number of near misses, people cutting into the gas station and coming around the turn when people are backing out. We also plan on changing the parking configuration on Cooley Street, but that's not shown here, but we'll actually gain some more parking spaces. What is shown here, and just a small note, on the corner of Lukoil, is this note that there'll be a rain garden. This is a new eco-friendly design. We're pretty excited to try this. It actually will be a small planted area where there would be a catch basin. So it's intended to be able to recapture rainwater and to basically slow water runoff. It's going to be an interesting look to it. But again, this is a better alignment for Cooley Street in both directions. You can see we're pulling in this island. It currently juts out a little bit and impedes people from taking turns out of Cooley Street when they're trying to take a left turn heading into the Marble Avenue.
Patty,
corner.
there's no crosswalks anywhere. Is that by design, or they just
No,
weren't drawn?
they are
or-
there. You just won't see them on this particular plan.
Okay, fine.
I took like 3 pages out of a book,
That's fine.
just so we can get the gist of it covered. But there are all new crosswalks across there as well, and ADA curbing, which is really important because we have very bad curb cuts along there. Finally, this is the intersection. This is at least somewhat illustrative of the intersection by Jean-Jacques.
So Jean-Jacques is here.
Jean-Jacques is
Tudor
here.
Time is here.
Tudor Time, that's right.
Photo Works is there. Corner of Memorial Plaza is there.
They call
Here's
that Grant Street? Is that
Marble
called
Avenue.
Grant Street?
Well, it used to be, yeah, it's
Continuing
Memorial Plaza
across
now.
the Memorial Plaza.
This is the plaza. Again, we are creating new corners, essentially, with new sidewalk and new dropped curb, new crosswalks all the way across. There will be a 4-way pedestrian walk cycle added here, which we don't have right now, which will be a very big benefit to people trying to cross this street. So I don't have the crosswalk details. I just wanted to at least cover all the intersections that are affected.
Patty, I
And
thought they were
again-
going to get rid of this island there and not round that off, but I thought they were going to make it a left-hand turn lane and square off that corner and get rid of that island.
Well, the original RBA plan closed off this free right yield. You're correct. The county didn't recommend it after doing their traffic analysis.
Okay.
They said that we really need to move the traffic up Marble Avenue from Bedford with a free right. They said it would really be an impediment, to the traffic flow if we forced it to be only on a red light or on a green light. So that would be opened up.
And that stretch of Bedford backs all the way up to Cooley and beyond.
It can, right. It certainly
Yeah,
can. I see it in the
down
morning.
down
So that's
Mar-
another thing, we needed to talk about. I mean, this project will be going into the opening month of school and beyond. It will generate significant traffic. We will have detour signs posted for people as an alternate route. There will never be a closure here, but there will be obviously some times when it will be very difficult to get through this intersection. We intend to work so all the businesses have access, unfettered access to their driveways and to their businesses, but it will at times cause some traffic delays.
I just have to say, and we certainly have to defer to the traffic engineers, but the 2 cases that we're looking at here of the free rights, the one coming down across from Key and
Right.
and go right up, right. Peter,
Yep.
point that out right up there. No, the other one.
From coming from
Yeah,
Hellers?
yeah, up there.
Right.
I think that's going to be a hazard to kids, pedestrians walking along, and won't look back. And I also think the Jean-Jacques free right, people come around there in slingshot around that corner. I'm sure there are wise traffic engineers and they know about this stuff, but if you hang around
Yeah, I'm trying to define.
both of those intersections, I think there are potential hazards.
No, we still have crossing guards there.
But we don't down here, by Hellers.
We don't, but believe me, this signalization will help a lot because, and at least people will be on a sidewalk
They
and
have
not
a
on
light
blacktop.
now, and they
I
have
mean,
a
it would,
crossing.
but I think the problem is the light is, as you said, right here, and if you have people who are walking along here, they're going to look way over here and try to figure out what the light is. It just, and I know that we don't do lights on posts anymore, right? That's against the New York State law.
Well, not the red, white, not the red, green, and yellow.
Green and yellow.
No, you can do
But
the
it
pedestrian.
just seems to me a light there that's the same as this, at least reminding people that if they're going along here.
Patty, I thought we had the walk signs.
You can do the walk on a post, but not the traffic signal. Brian's right.
But I thought we
They have to
had
be
a
overhead.
walk, don't we have walk posts there?
We do. There are walk cycles.
Yeah.
There's a walk cycle on that corner.
It's actually illegal in the state of New York to have a traffic signal on a post, except in New York City, all up and down Park Avenue.
Yeah, there are a bunch
And
of
there's
grandfathered.
Something in Astoria, Queens.
You should see the cute one in
Because-
Croton on
yeah,
Hudson
you
if
know
you've
why-
ever seen it. It's
You know why
really
you
cute.
can do it there?
Right
Because
in the
it
middle
actually
of-
looks
see that one?
nice. So,
Croton-
Well, recognize,
Croton's Old Village, they have
as
the
has
little
already been
one on
said,
it.
at one point the RBA plan had a different strategy, RBA being the group that looked at these intersections under the federal grant that we use to look at intersections all the way around. This is the first set of them that we're actually implementing, but it's a county road, and the county contributed substantial services to do the detailed drawings here, as well as the detailed analysis, and it was their view that they rejected RBA's proposal, and this is what they feel is essential to do. So,
You know, again, they're, as Brian said, I'm sure they're wise or engineers. However, you know, like, the frustration I have is that I can't, you were here, you know how many hours we spent going back and forth on this, closing this right, and to have it rejected, and the first time I'm hearing about it is now.
oh, well, I mean, the drawings have looked like that for a good long while.
What final, I haven't seen final drawings on this.
Well, when they came in here
We've
with
had
the
them for-
traffic
we
study
might-
guy,
Well,
and we
Suzette
asked
came in.
him all those questions. he
Suzette
had
came
that.
in with her engineer.
You remember?
Man, I wasn't here maybe then.
It was a long
Well-
time ago, Jonathan, and then we finally got the money, you know.
I was under the impression we had closed that off all along.
Recognize the other thing that we are assured from the traffic engineers is that this new light at opposite Lukoil, properly synchronized with the rest of the lights at Jean-Jacques and at Village Hall, will actually substantially improve the traffic flow through at peak times, that more cars will be able to get through more efficiently
Well, see,
than in the current
see,
circumstances.
And here's the problem. This is I've been down this road with, so to speak, with traffic engineers. The county, it's in the county's interest to move traffic as fast as possible between points A and B. And in the village, it's actually our goal to slow traffic down so that it's safer for pedestrians and kids as they're walking to and from, and moms with strollers and so on. So it seems to me we're all sort of working at cross purposes.
Well,
They
I-
want to shoot traffic through the village, and we don't. I mean,
I
traffic
don't think
calming
it's as
is...
simple as that. I mean, it's not in our interest to have traffic choked in the downtown, as it sometimes happens at rush hour at the moment. People are going to do what they're going to do. If we can get cars through in a safe manner, but in a more efficient manner, that it seems to me is a compromise we need to accept.
Yeah, that was part of the discussion with that corner again, and that part of the response to that was that we could actually do a better job and safer job of moving traffic through with signalization
Right.
than having this opened right-hand turn lane, which I was skeptical of when the engineer was telling me that, but nonetheless said, all right, well, if that's what they're telling us, then fine. So this is all, mind you, I missed the meeting, I guess, but I don't know why there wasn't greater pushback on that or an explanation as to
Well,
why all the open right-hand turns that they were closing originally are now all back open again.
I don't know if we had any options. I think we were basically just like, it was the county, and they were saying, this is what,
This is the gift horse.
this is it. This is it. This is what we found from our study, and this is the way we're going to do it.
Are they, I mean, this is
Okay.
before I came back on the
Yeah,
board.
that's right.
Are they adamant about this? I mean, they
Oh,
were,
it was-
or was it just one guy in the back room that thought it was better this way?
No, their traffic engineers have run the models to show that with the volume and with the turning movements
Right.
that take place, this is necessary.
It was hours of
Yeah,
studies.
I wonder if their
And-
traffic
and-
engineers would send their 10-year-old kid to walk to school. I mean, that's our goal here, is so the kids can actually walk to school.
Look,
If
Well,
they're
it's
going
gonna
to,
be-
if they've
it's
got
gonna
two
be a
free
lot
rights
safer.
that
Well,
where
this
people are
is,
slingshotting around the road.
you know, come on, Brian, you got to admit, this is like 100 times safer than
huge improvement.
what we're looking
I
at
don't
right
want
now.
people to get the wrong idea. Obviously, as you can see, all of us have had concerns about the various details about this, and when you get two sets of traffic engineers in the room, as we had at one point,
right.
they don't always agree. But what I do think is that, as Mindy indicated, this is a dramatic improvement in pedestrian safety.
I don't expect it to be changed.
Well,
I just want the satisfaction of saying, I told you so.
Well, the other
Well-
thing is RBA didn't do the detailed modeling. I mean, they had
Right.
illustrations, but they were clear to say that, you know, conceptually, this is what we think we should do here, but they did not test the model.
And also, there was a lot of timing issues, because,
Yeah, there still are.
right, there was,
Yeah.
they needed, you know, when they timed the intersections and where they have those, where those timing boxes are going to go, that is what, that study just determined where those timing boxes were going to go in order to move the traffic in a safe way.
Are we
And that
using
was
timing
one of
boxes?
the,
Yeah, there'll be loops.
It's going to be smart
It's-
lights?
Yes, and
Yes.
also there won't be any dedicated walk cycles there at any of those intersections. There will still be a dedicated walk cycle right outside the corner here at Wheeler in the Bank of New York, simply because of the senior center. We need it to be a full walk cycle for that short period of time. But these won't be. These will be with traffic flow. So it will keep traffic moving.
The other thing I wanted to say is we spend some parts of our lives as elected officials complaining about the county, and doubtless will again, but in this circumstance, albeit with some disagreement about the details of this, the county was an enormous help to us.
They were
And
great,
in particular, Suzette Lopine and her colleagues at the county planning department invested quite a bit of time, and indeed the county is paying for half the cost of this. So we are in...
Do I sound ungrateful?
we are.
Yes.
Is that what you're doing? Is that what you're
Yes.
apologizing?
I just want to say that I dropped into the Art of Wine and let Mike Goldstein know that this was afoot since it's opposite his store, and he said, well, he's been there long enough to see that this will be either the third or the fourth iteration of that intersection to see if there's a way to make it work better. And as we all know, living here, it is not an easy intersection, and it suffers heavy traffic at the rush hour. So I do think that we're optimistic. Did you have something to say? Welcome.
here, I'll give you back this mic. You would rather just handhold it?
I'll go handle it for a while. Yeah, Bill White, Green Meadow Road. I'm not particularly happy about slip lanes as a pedestrian because it's a little dangerous. Given the fact that we may be where we are, at least if you put a well-labeled crosswalk across that strip, because that's not controlled by any traffic signal,
Right.
and maybe on each side one of these signs that says state law pedestrian, traffic must stop for pedestrians in a crosswalk. So at least cars, when they come around there, will
Not
see
if there's
some
a
sort
light.
of thing.
Although
There's
the
no
slip
light
lanes
there.
are not
There's
light
no light
controlled.
there.
There
That's
is,
the whole problem.
essentially, though. There
Yeah,
is
no.
a-
Too far away to see.
That's too far. You
is
don't
my
know.
point. It's too far. It's way out. Go down there and look. It's too
Patty,
far.
can you go back to that view
Yeah,
that showed the
yeah.
crosswalks there?
The trouble is the lights don't control
Right.
anything.
It's
But
this
there are stop
crosswalk right
signs.
here.
There are stop signs where there used to be yield. There are
Right.
full stop requirements now because of the crosswalks.
Yeah, but we know that that's not a
Well,
pedestrian-friendly device.
This is just a suggestion.
Yes.
If you
Stop
got
here.
live with what the
Yes.
county's doing, make it patently obvious
Yeah.
that
I
people
agree.
shouldn't mess up.
I do agree.
You know how to
Thank
put
you,
that
sir.
back in? Got that? Thank you.
All right. Again, if anyone watching wants to comment, 769-1677. We are more than happy to receive your calls. So, Patty, this is going to kick off the week of August 3rd.
Yeah, we're working on, right now, trying to determine where the contractor can stage equipment and supplies. It's a little tight around here. So we'll probably find some space at the end of Cooley Street and also Parkway Terrace and
We
maybe
can always take some no parking
somewhere
signs.
along the state right-of-way along the Sawmill and Sarles.
And how long is the work expected to take?
We think we'll be in punch list in late spring, so the
Late
sidewalk
spring?
should be done, yeah.
Why so long? Late spring?
Because-
6 months? 7
Because of the
months?
staging and the fact that the lead time on ordering the equipment is a problem. The subcontractor, Verdi, who's the only game in town to install these traffic signals, is going to be difficult to pin down. Once they start, I mean, everybody's in agreement that they will finish, but it's hard to get them in line. It's hard to order these lights and light stanchions. There's a high lead time for the order. So the essential thing is to get the sidewalks and get the table set, basically, and then if we're lucky, we're lucky, we can get these lights up in the winter, but...
So the sidewalks will be done in the fall,
Yes.
and the
Wait,
granite curbs...
Which fall? Next
This fall.
fall? This fall?
This coming
This
fall.
Uh-huh.
So they start the beginning of August, and this continues into what? October for the sidewalks?
It could be, we can go through November.
Okay.
We can go through November.
And then we will await the arrival of the other materials?
Right.
Can I make a suggestion here, that something that's always bothered me, and I remember talking about it a lot previously, and I'll talk about it again. I think in all of our sidewalk contracts with every contractor, we need to have it written in as part of the contract that the sidewalk needs to be delivered dried and hardened without any graffiti, curse words, initials, stars, circles written. Look at every sidewalk, with some exception. Up on Bedford Road, there were some sections that were undrawn on. But you know, why is it that in this village, every time you pour a sidewalk, they pour it just as school lets out, and then people start writing all over it, and then we have to look at it for the rest of, the rest of the decade.
It's so tempting.
Keep
Come
away
on,
from the
Brian, you haven't done it
sidewalks,
yourself.
Well,
You haven't done it yourself.
Come on, I bet we
I'm
can
not
find
even
some
standing out there
ES
with-
initials around there
No,
somewhere.
well,
They are responsible for keeping...
and yet they aren't,
there will be.
and we don't,
Yeah.
and we
I'm
don't
gonna
hold
put
them
'em
to
in.
it. We don't hold them to it.
So
Look at
yeah,
any
it stands
sidewalk
for
poured
it.
in this village. You don't see that in New York, and you don't see that in towns where they sit around and guard till it's dry.
We could have police protection there, Brian, how about that?
I work down, Mindy,
Yeah.
I'm just telling you, I
The
work
dog.
downtown, and I see all kinds of things written on our sidewalks, and I see them every single day, and it bothers me every single day. Why can't we just
We will do
make it as
our
part of the
best.
contract?
Well, we don't have to accept them if they're damaged.
Unblemished
It
concrete.
may even be in there. I didn't read the specs that carefully, but I'll take a look.
All right.
We can have a Pleasantville Walk of Fame.
Of the-
We can, like, deliberately clean. Sorry.
Just one
you
last
picked the
thing on the
shortest walk-
staging, Patty. So they're gonna put the sidewalks in, they're gonna do all those mulches, they're gonna redo the islands? What, is that all in?
Yeah, the final phase would be resurfacing the roadway after they install all the traffic loops and everything else. They'll come in with... Mhm.
Just so that by staging it that way, we're not risking later on them coming to do the poles and everything else, and now all of a sudden we've got cut up sidewalks and you
No,
know,
there'll be
what
pits.
looks good as new construction now looks less good because they've had to cut holes in it and everything else in order to get those light poles in the right places or the walk signs, that kind of thing. I mean,
No, they'll
I
know
hope
that.
they have that
understand what
worked
you're saying.
out.
All the sleeves will be set, all
Yeah.
the bolts will be set.
Never
taken- how
maybe I'm being naive,
streets
but
do we have where, a month later something else comes through that they knew about and they cut right into a newly paved street? I mean, I just want to make sure that
Well, Con Ed was there all last year. They made a mess. I hope they're done.
Yeah, I
I mean,
mean,
if you remember, they
yeah,
dug
they're
it.
huge.
They just came in and ripped up most of Bedford Road without even,
terrible.
telling us. So I think they're finished. I'd like to think they're finished, but things
Why
do
they
happen.
could do that, huh? They could cut the trees down, they could rip up the roads, and no recourse.
But this is going to, you're going to be
Problem.
you're going to be very happy with this project when it's
Yeah.
done.
yeah.
I do think it's going to be a great step forward and both look much better and work much better, especially the pedestrian improvements. So, okay, let's move on. We just had a number of updates to make. The first is the Verizon FIOS update. I think I mentioned last meeting I sent an email to Verizon and said we were going to have a FIOS update every meeting that we have to report the community on the status of it, and Verizon was invited to come and offer their side of the story or to send a message if they cared to, and thus far they have declined to do so. But the bottom line is Jonathan and Patty and I met with Verizon a couple of weeks ago, and some modest progress was made, but also a significant technical issue arose that had never been a source of discussion before. That was a big concern of ours, and Verizon has promised to look at that and see whether they can revisit the proposal that they made to us. We're not in a position to comment in any detail about it because of the requirements they have established for the confidentiality of the negotiation, but they assured us that they would get back to us quickly. There's been some evidence that they have done the due diligence required to do it, and I sent an email today and left a voicemail as well, asking when they would get back to us on this specific issue, and thus far have not heard back. But I'm optimistic that at least that piece of it ought to be heard from soon, and it is a matter that is on our radar screen pretty much every day. So
What is remarkable is that in the course of 24 hours, they can find out there's a music festival and harness probably several $1,000s worth of
Tents and
tents
paraphernalia,
and
giveaways.
flat screen TVs and
Well, look
everything
at
else,
me. I was
as well as
very
paying
impressed.
fees to be there, and yet it takes them weeks to get back to us with simple requests, which is, makes you wonder what kind of partner they really want to be with the village.
It really, I share with Jonathan that I found it quite remarkable, given the number of hours we have spent trying to get these people to the table, that they were able to mobilize their marketing effort with a great deal more speed. But next point was the recreation center, the old recreation center, the former library hall at the corner of Great Oak Lane and Bedford Road. Many of you know that the building is now empty, and we have posted on our website at pleasantville-ny.gov a request for proposals for individuals who might be interested in buying that building and adaptively reusing it. Our RFP, which you can get off the website, it's linked right on the front page of our website, establishes a number of requirements, including the fact that whoever buys it would be responsible for restoring the outside of the building in a historically appropriate manner, consistent with the guidelines we've included in the RFP, and you would also be required to accept an easement on the deed that means that the building can never be torn down. So what we've asked for is people to come back and tell us how much they would be willing to pay for the building and what use they would put it to. The RFP does not bind us to accept any of these offers, but it is our effort to try to find an appropriate use that would both safeguard that building for the future and find a good use for it. So we did a program the other night on PCTV, which included a section from Karsten Johnson, the village historian, talking about the history of the building. And I recommend that to you both as a point of village history and interest about what's going on now, and also anyone who's potentially interested in buying the building. So again, you can pick that up. It's running this week on the PCTV regular schedule, and you can also pick it up on demand at pctv76.org. So it's a remarkable building, really quite an interesting piece of Pleasantville history. Originally the reading room, ballroom, and theater, and later on the library for the village. So I recommend that to you, and we encourage anybody who might have an interesting idea for the use of that building to respond to that RFP. The responses are due into Village Hall August 15th. Music Festival update, you heard from Saul Skolnick. We had a great and successful day on July 11th. I think it was a feel-good event all the way around. Kudos to the entire village staff. And thanks to Judy Weintraub, who uses a scissors and a pinking shears to customize people's staff member T-shirts, each in a manner that suits their personality. So the people in Parks and DPW did a great job. The trash was gone even before it arrived, it seemed, and the village of Pleasantville looked pretty good that day with a well-oiled team of people working very well. Patty Dwyer has shepherded the thing to a really pretty efficient operation. So also would like to point out that the Chamber of Commerce this year did a tie-in marketing campaign, I think taking advantage of the music festival at a level they had not before, and there were balloons all around the village and sidewalk sales going on, so that was a nice little bit of synergy as well. So a happy day with sidewalk sales, farm market and Memorial Plaza, and quite a few thousand people down at Parkway Field for the music festival.
And I think we should also thank the legion of residents, volunteers, as well as Marlene Canopy and everybody else that weren't necessarily associated with the village, but put in many hours to make that happen, as they have every year since this, and that's really what makes help.
Absolutely, you're completely right. Marlene ran the vendor area. We had the Pleasantville Volunteer Ambulance Corps covering our first aid and emergency response services, and in fact late in the night in the course of the cleanup someone was injured, and PVAC was on the scene practically instantly and did a great job for us there as well. So clearly there are a whole bunch of people that ought to be thanked in a more formal way, and we'll think about a way to do that, but it was certainly a happy event. So in work session before we came into the televised session, we met with Rich Lampert and Fred Hettinger. They have been putting together some various proposals for a possible affordable housing development and parking structure that might go on the parking lot that the village owns, the corner of Bedford Road and Wheeler Avenue behind Lucy's, and that's a project that is currently in just a conceptual phase, and we will be discussing how to think further about whether that's a project we're interested in doing and get some community input on that subject, and a project you'll be hearing more about in the future as we consider whether it's a logical way to proceed or not. After we finish our regular televised session tonight, we'll be looking at a bunch of administrative items, including a proposal from building engineer to assist us in weatherizing the old rec center so that we can make sure that whatever deterioration exists right now doesn't get any worse in the course of the winter. We've received a revised appraisal for the old rec center, are looking at a grant program that's out for assistance to farm markets. We will be looking a little more at the accounting for the music festival, which at the moment is still a work in progress. We'll let you know how it works out when we have the final revenues and expenses together. There's a proposal we'll be considering for a GIS upgrade that would assist in our tax assessment and planning functions, so that if we buy into this software program, we'll be able to link the various assessed properties into a GIS system and be able to pull up those parcels both through GIS connected to our tax assessment database. We have a proposal from a landscape architect responding to our request for some support services for review of some development possibilities as part of our downtown business district plan. And lastly, we're also looking at a playground equipment budget for Soldiers and Sailors Park that would be assisted in part by a grant that Richard Brodsky got on behalf of the village. Then we have a brief executive session where we have some legal matters and some real estate matters that we'll be discussing in executive session. So anybody else have anything they wanted to toss out there? All right. That said, time for the resolutions. Steve, 145.
Resolved that pre-check registered dated July 20th, 2009, covering check numbers 63944 to 64065 has been reviewed. They are hereby approved as listed below. General Fund, $188,908.77. Miscellaneous Revenue Fund, $50. Water Fund, $117,970.05. Capital Fund, $16,250.30. Refuse Fund, $19,229.72. Pool Fund, $7,730.96. Trust and Agency, $1,065 for a grand total of $351,000. $351,204.80.
Is there a second?
Second?
I realize we go through this every meeting and have an approval of the check register. For the benefit of those watching, each of us receives a detailed list of what all of those individual checks are that accumulates the totals that Steve just read off, so that we have an opportunity to look over and see what each of those checks is for, and the village guidelines require that these check warrants be approved by the board before those checks are written. So, anybody have anyone to question?
Royal flush was on there, but I'm going to pass on the question.
That's for the porta potties.
Come on, take that
That's
one,
the
John.
porta potties for the music festival.
It's all right. We also have to keep
Great
America
company.
beautiful for the Ragamuffin Parade. So. Okay, all in favor?
Aye.
Motion approved.
Resolved that the Board of Trustees has reviewed the minutes of the meeting held on Monday, July 6, 2009, and they are hereby approved.
Is there a second?
Second.
Any comments or corrections? All in favor?
Aye.
Motion approved.
Resolved that the Board of Trustees of the Village of Pleasantville hereby approves the proposal for Frederick P. Clark Associates for planning advisory services for the fiscal year 2009-2010 as per the terms set forth in the proposal dated July 2nd, 2009.
Is there a second?
Second.
Frederick P. Clark Associates is a planning firm based in Rye that we have used for many years, providing planning support for both the Planning Commission and also for zoning changes and the like that we undertake. In the last couple of years, F.P. Clark has been represented by a planner named Michael Landler, and up until this year, his rate has been $165 per hour. This new proposal for the 2009-2010 fiscal year raises it to $175 per hour, an increase of $10, which they report is below the rate they typically charge for new clients because of the long-standing relationship. At the moment, the bulk of F.P. Clark's responsibilities are to attend the Planning Commission meetings and then to follow up on some planning-related subjects that the Planning Commission may request. The total billings of F.P. Clark to the village are substantially down from what they were at one point, in part because we have not undertaken with their assistance any particular special projects, and also because the work process has changed modestly, and I do know there are some concerns about that on the Planning Commission side of the table, and I recommend that at some point in the relatively near future, with Steve's assistance, he being the liaison to planning, we sit down with planning and make sure that they are getting the services they think they need.
Does he normally raise his fee every year, or is this like a new increase this year?
I don't really recall. I think it goes up slightly every year. We hadn't worked with Michael. This is only our second year with him.
Anybody else want to add to that? Be aware also that the approval of this is not really a retainer agreement, it's a rate agreement. There's no commitment to pay F.P. Clark anything. It simply says we've agreed to pay under these terms to the extent that we use these services. So, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Motion approved. Right.
Are we tabling number
Jonathan.
148?
Oh, Jonathan, sorry.
Right? Is it
No.
Jonathan? Oh, no, I'm
That was
sorry.
Jonathan.
I'm sorry, I'm screwing you
Yeah.
up there.
Our resolution number 48 was a resolution to implement the parking restrictions on Weskora Avenue that you heard us discuss in the public hearing. And because a number of issues came up that might suggest we want to revisit that, and because some neighbors may not be home at this point, we adjourned that public hearing, which means we've kept it open, and we'll pick it up again at our next meeting on August 10th. So that one has been tabled, and we'll go on to 149.
Resolved that the Board of Trustees authorizes the Justice Court Clerk to submit a grant application to the New York State Office of Court Administration for filing cabinets and other court office supplies. No matching funds are required.
There a second?
Second.
Patty, where are all these filing cabinets going to go?
They're all going to go in the office.
Up in Stephanie's
Right.
office?
Yeah, in the office of the court clerk.
Okay.
They'll be replacing some other cabinets.
Okay, and are we expecting that we're likely to get these grants?
I believe we will. I mean, the state had given us, every grant that they had available for Justice Court Administration in the last 3
Gives me
years.
an opportunity to comment again that this much grander table and much grander chairs that we sit in was not our idea. It was paid for by the New York State Office of Court Administration as a requirement to upgrade the security standards and also the perceived significance of our court operations. So,
Our metal detectors in operation on Tuesday nights as well.
Really?
Yeah.
so the State Office of Court Administration required that we implement a metal detector system, and so we now have a metal detector that gets pulled into place on court nights as well. So, a sign of the times, I suppose. But for those who may be concerned about that, that was not a Village of Pleasantville expense and not a scheme that we hatched. That was all required by and paid for by Albany.
And this is a small, application for a shredder, a calculator, and several lateral files.
Okay, all in favor?
Aye.
Motion approved. Steve.
Resolved that the Board of Trustees authorizes the village administrator to submit a grant application to the New York State Department of Agriculture and Markets for farmers market amenities such as directional signage, sanitation receptacles, and traffic circulation improvements. Estimated total cost of improvements of $10,000, and in accordance with the terms of this grant program, 50% matching funds not to exceed $5,000 will be provided by the Village of Pleasantville.
Is there a second?
Second.
Patty, I'm wondering if this grant program became known to us relatively recently, and the grant applications are due by July 27th, so we need to be responding pretty quickly. One question I had is whether, although certainly improved signing and the like would be good, whether we might rather look at some means by which we could get some money to think about long-term improvements to the site, whatever that might be, some sort of...
The problem is that with the potential development to Memorial Plaza, I mean, it would all impact that. I mean,
Right.
some of the things that you could do is we could put in tables and overhead, like instead of the farmers bringing their own tents, you could build like a, you know, an overhang like of
Right.
some kind over by the fence there. But, you know, that's the kind of thing that's covered in this grant. But you really want to do that, and then it can't benefit the market management as far as how she leases those spaces. It still has to be done in the same way. It can't, you know. So I don't know. I mean, are we, you know, far enough along in our vision of that area back there to put something permanent in? Because once we get the money and we do it, isn't it pretty much got to stay there? We can't take it down?
Well, I think we, you know, as the mayor suggested, maybe we just apply for funding to do, you know, an architectural or engineering design that'll incorporate, that's portable, you know, that we know we can replicate this market site within the plaza.
Well, I mean, one interesting thing is that there's a list of things that are eligible as well as a few that are not.
Right.
Portable signs and directional signs are not eligible, and so although some signing is eligible, I wonder whether if we talk too much about improved signing, we may harm our chances. Stuff that is included as eligible includes temporary structures related to the operation of market, and also...
temporary structures?
Yes.
Oh, I didn't think it said temporary.
Temporary structures, as well as architectural and engineering services and on contractor fees to construct a permanent thing. So, I mean, we certainly have had, the farm market has been an enormous success, and it might be worth thinking about whether we're at the point where, I mean, I think Mindy's right that this comes at us a little earlier in the process than we're really quite ready to accept it, but by the same token, the grants are relatively small.
It would be worth looking at what I think we could do with overhead structures. I don't know that I've seen them here in the village, but I've worked on a number of projects where they have these fabric overheads that are supported almost tent-like, and they're taken down in the winter. So what you have remaining are just the poles that hold them. I don't know how portable they are, but they use them a lot for recreational uses, where they'll put they use them for shade over portions of a pool patio, or other recreational types of uses like that. But that would be I had been thinking, actually not in connection with this, but with a longer term multiple use overhead structure of that nature put up seasonally. It could be nice to use for outdoor seating, for events that you might have, musical events at the gazebo, these things that involve days when you have potential for inclement weather.
The problem with the polling and the tent in there is the tree. The tents currently now are put in between the trees. So if you were going to put a tent versus a wood structure that you could build in between the trees, or around the trees.
These come in all different sizes. You can get them 20 by 30. You can get them 30 by 50. They're I say they're tent-like because they're fabric.
Yeah,
and they're stretched fabric.
A lot prettier.
But there's maybe something we might want to look at with the engineering services and do a quick figure on what a set-aside might be for doing a couple of them. And if you can't use the money, then I imagine that you forfeit it. But if you don't apply for it, then you don't have it to use if you come up with something that's workable.
My only concern is how the vendors are charged for their space. It has a lot to do with the structure they're putting up, like how many tents they have. So if we change that dynamic, that's going to change a whole pricing structure that we worked very hard on with the market management company to stabilize a little bit, so the farmers had a little bit more flexibility.
Right.
You know, so do you
So
know
you're
what I'm
saying
saying?
some might have to pay more if we do
Well,
something
that's
like
what
that.
my
It's
concern
just,
would
you know,
be, how
everybody
it would
uses
then be
10-foot tents at the
manipulated.
moment, and
Yeah.
you pay basically per 10-foot square spot. Well,
We had it extended to give the farmers more flexibility and more customer service-oriented stalls.
Right.
Because it's really the depth, we felt, as a community, we felt that a farmer should not be charged depth, but frontage. And the market management company did not agree with that at all, because the depth is there. Why shouldn't they be able to use it?
Right.
You should be charged for the frontage of it. And so if we build this structure, or if we have a temporary structure, it should be, the depth should be utilized, we think, for the farmers. But we can't have that now manipulated by the management company to maybe get a little more money for, because she will not charge by frontage.
That sounds all like details that could be worked out as you go
You
through
would
the
think.
project.
You would think.
You know, I just think if we...
Sounds like the tail wagging the dog not
Yeah.
to look at it because there's some management
Right.
questions.
I just think that we're almost getting to the point where we need to take a real, you know, a holistic look at the way, because the farmers market is such a success.
Yeah.
You know, do we want to expand it in certain ways? Do we want to expand it time-wise? Do we want to kind of even rethink Memorial Plaza in a new way? I mean, I think one thing we know is that after how many years of the farmers market, it has done exactly. I mean, it couldn't be any better than what we were thinking 10 years ago. This is just.
I know.
It's just
part
great.
of part of it was your philosophy, Brian, that we kept it pure, a pure
Right.
farmers market, which I think was the
But
best
I'm
thing
just
we could have
thinking,
ever
you know,
done, but-
I sort of agree with Steve on this. I think even if we think we're thinking about new directions, this is not a great deal of money. We can sort of use
Right.
it for whatever it is now. If we don't need it, if we sort of race ahead for any reason this fall or this winter, then we can still do that. It's not a great deal of money. But I think you know, it's just, I guess, my way of saying, I think we should take a really a hard look at this. Take a look at Memorial Plaza, and now that I think we sort of all think that in some perfect world it would be nice to have this green and do parking someplace else, and you know, we sort of know the direction we're going. Let's talk to somebody and think about you know, how it might look. You know, if you build it, they will come, and if you fix this, it almost can redefine the way the downtown starts to perceive itself.
well, so is that's a vote in favor of seeking a grant to do just that, isn't it?
If that's where we want to use that money,
I mean, it's only a $10,000 grant, so, I mean, one piece of that might be to engage someone,
Right.
some design professional, and say, in a schematic way, what can we do now to improve the market in its current situation, maybe to extend it deeper into the season, recognizing that last year a number of the vendors wanted to continue, and in the end it ended up in a church in Briarcliff, right?
Yeah, no, a number of the vendors did not want to continue. That was not,
Some did, though.
some, a very few,
Right,
and it was,
right. I mean, it's hard to do it in the winter, and there's lots
it's
to
very
sell,
hard to
obviously.
do in the winter, yes.
But also there's the question of what should this thing look like in the longer term?
Right.
So
So I think that what we're suggesting is bumping up the amount of the grant and adding some bells and whistles to it. Right.
Yeah.
I mean, so it's not just a 10,000, 5,000 split, but
Right.
we're talking
I'm
about
I'm
that the max is
interested-
25 out of this program.
I'm interested in more than, I mean, it's
Yeah.
great directional signage,
No, it's 25.
sanitation receptacles, that's all
Right here.
great. But let's look at this in a more inclusive way.
all right, so Patty, perhaps if, with everyone's agreement, that could boil down into a proposal for sort of a near-term improvements and long-term planning. Does that make sense? And near-term improvements may be the items you have described,
Right.
coupled with an effort to say, well, this thing has gone from 0 to 60 in this 10-year period, what happens in the next 10? Does that seem reasonable?
I think that's a smart approach.
Seem okay?
Yeah.
Okay. Everybody- All right.
Well, I hate to be the one that keeps harping on it. Every meeting we have a thing where we're going to spend another $5,000 or $10,000 or whatever, and personally, I like the farmers market. I think it's quaint. I love the way it feels, and I think it's terrific. My only issue with this is that if we're going to spend more, if we're going to do anything with this, we're going to spend a lot more than $5,000 or $10,000 because that's just the way it always works. We're going to figure out that there's this great $25,000 or $50,000 or $75,000 project that makes all the difference, and it may or may not. And the kind of the difficulty I have is, again, what's the vision? I mean, do we want to blow that farmers market out to be something bigger than it is? Does the community like the size, the feel, the flow? And maybe I'm just in the majority or minority on that, but it's kind of fun to walk down there, and you can move around, and your neighbors are there, and you can chat, and it's got a great feel, and you end up spending $50 or $75 on stuff you never even knew you'd want.
Yeah, I'm opposed to a great feel.
Yeah. So
I want to wreck
just-
that.
I guess my feeling is on this, and I'm not, everything you guys said is great. I don't. How can you argue with the idea of, as Brian put forward, sort of figuring out what it could be? My thought is, unless we're at this point, if it's not broke, why are we looking to fix it? Given all the other things that we have to spend money on. It's one of the things that, by everybody's admission, is working extraordinarily well. It's $10,000, as we've all just said, is too little. If there's something that we really need to do, it's going to be more than that. And as a board, are we prepared to spend more than that? And if we are, then we should be talking about that more comprehensively than around a proposal or a resolution that comes by for a grant, of which we have to match half of. And that's what I'd like to see us do, as opposed to doing these one-offs.
Jonathan, I guess what I'm trying to say here is, I agree with you that I have a certain frustration with the amount of studies and consultants that we may or we probably need them. I'm not trying to take shots at consultants here. I'm sure we need them, but in some ways, I think that the key. And I haven't been on the board for the last 3 years. The key to a lot of what you guys have been thinking about lies back here. And I think a lot of what we can do back here, it's possible we could do it for less. We can sort of do this. We should. It's possible we could do something and help jumpstart the business district without doing a great, without spending a lot of money. In other words, I'm in favor of just doing something, or at least thinking about doing something that doesn't cost a great deal. If it does, then I'm with you. But I'm tired of sort of hearing endless hashing and rehashing about the way things should go. And it's nice. I like the idea of getting somebody who's an expert in the way village greens could look, the way farmers markets could look. I'm not sure it takes even $10,000 for that. It might be within the scope of this. I've talked to several friends of mine who are, eminent architects and land use people, and talked to them about this. And there are people who get excited about this and are almost willing to do it pro bono because of the idea of making a significant change in
Look,
that.
I'm not against any of that. Honestly, I just it comes without a comprehensive sort of. We've talked about what to do with Memorial Plaza. There are several ideas out there that have been floating around, from just closing off the slipway, to moving the gazebo, to making it all green, to moving parking somewhere else. There's a number of proposals out there. Granted, the farmers market fits into the whole plan as to how you do that. But it's sort of, my feeling is that we need to start setting priorities so that we're actually spending money efficiently, as opposed to just spending money. And yeah, we can do these little one-off
That-
studies.
That's sort of what I'm saying. I
So
don't think you
my-
and I are saying anything different at all.
Right.
I don't-
Except that I'm not so sure I'm interested in spending $10,000, of which we have to spend 5 on, for a study that doesn't really fit into a hole yet.
Well, I didn't really see that this was a study. I mean,
Well, what is it?
Well, if you read what's in the resolution, this is for specific improvements to the farm market. It may include some studies, and I think Peter had suggested that maybe we ought to put some component in for that. But what's listed here is hard cost improvements to better enable the farmer market to function efficiently and safely.
Just to back up for the benefit of those watching, what we're talking about here is the New York State Department of Agriculture and Markets has issued a request for proposals. They have a total of $150,000 that they are going to dole out to the winning communities for capital improvements to farm markets. So that's what we're talking about here, and recognize that we are acutely aware of the economic times. We're acutely aware of what we confront in the next budget year and the budget years that follow. And so one of the things we're trying to do is do more with less. And so when there's an opportunity to get a small amount of money that it would actually, as far as I know, be the first significant capital investment we've made in the farm market in a good long time. So if
Well, and if it's for hard costs that we know what they are and how we're going to use them,
Well, for
great,
instance,
but it sounds like we don't even know that yet.
Well, for instance, in here, Patty's listed sanitation receptacles. I think, Jonathan, you had asked a month or two ago how many sanitation receptacles were out here, and I think a couple of folks were taking a guess at that. I counted them up one week because I was curious. Does Peter really know how many are out there? Because he was pretty sure it was a number. It was 8 or 10 or something like that. There actually is about that many out on Memorial Plaza, but I'm not sure, but I don't believe there are any at the back of the parking area around where the farmers market is staged. So, you know, and I imagine,
bring
you'd
them
correct me if
in.
I'm wrong, I bet those waste receptacles are $300, $400, $500 a pop. So, you know, you do 10 of those, and that money goes.
well, and we have the
and that's just sanitation.
we have the grim, beat up, highway safety orange bollards with the police crime tape that we use to rope it off here and there.
Look,
At any rate,
if there are things that we know we can use, as opposed to, is it going to be a tent structure with, some sort of topping or tents? Can we use those or can't we use? I just assume there'd be some, so we know what we're getting for our money, as opposed to let's apply for it and then sort of wing it from there.
Well, I just think that in the way the world works right now, it's that we are increasingly going to be relying on, in the years to come, on local farms and local farmers for our food. And that's the way, people are, I'm not saying that people are, this is sort of this is the way the world is going to work. This is where food sources are going to happen. As petroleum gets increasingly expensive, for example, we get less and less from California and Florida. So, I think we are already in the vanguard of communities that have established a very successful farm market. I have only great admiration for the people in this town who did that. I just think that it may behoove us at this point to recognize that fact, and to recognize the fact that we're not going to be able to do major downtown reconstruction as we've thought in the past because of the financial situation. But there might be something we can do to change in a key way the way we look at our downtown. And if there's not, there's not. Look, if you think it's quaint, if the bollards and the yellow tape are great, and if that's what we want, if that's what we can afford, then so be it. But if it doesn't take all that much more money to take another look at Memorial Plaza, I think now might be a good time to do it and to take advantage of the state money. We certainly have a farmer's market that justifies it, it seems to me, in the eyes of the state. I'm not trying to spend more money, I'm trying to spend less. I'm trying to come to the realization that the world isn't made of money anymore. They're not giving money to towns like Pleasantville.
I think it just makes sense to invest in things that are successful to keep them and to improve them. Actually, the folks who come in, I have no idea what the breakout is, and I don't know if anybody does for the.
We do
for the
a
farmers
count
market.
every summer.
But do we know how many people come from out of town
Yeah,
who
we
then
do.
have the
We know all
spillover
that,
business
yes.
locally and all that?
There's quite a bit from out of town.
We might, for example, hear from somebody that we could, for example, with increased participation, have a farmer's market on another day. I mean, with Saturday and Wednesday, or Saturday and Thursday, something like that, in a more of a European model. I'm not saying we should.
I'm just trying to understand, what are we voting on here? Are we voting to buy hard goods so we can get rid of the yellow tape and bollards, or are we voting on applying for a grant so that we can hire a consultant to tell us what we could do? Because that will influence the way I vote on it.
Okay.
If we're going to pay for another consultant's work on the farmer's market, I wouldn't be in favor of that. If we're going to invest in the market to upgrade it, if that's what's required, and I don't see the yellow tapes and bollards as much as you do, but I'm sure they're there. And if Mindy who's been sort of the spear tip on this, says that that's one of the things that she's hearing from the vendors and everybody else that could benefit the market, then I would be in favor of doing that.
Doing what?
Voting for applying for grant money, which we'd have to spend up to 50%
So
matching
you're just in
to
favor
upgrade the market.
The hard costs.
Yes.
So, I mean, recognize...
So any further thought of restructuring it or rethinking it, you're not in favor of that?
I didn't say that. I'm not in favor of spending money on that as part of a one-off. I'd be in favor of spending money on that as part of a comprehensive plan. But, okay, great, what if they tell us all this you can do, but it doesn't fit with the Memorial Plaza plan?
Here's the suggestion I made a little earlier, and I still think it makes some sense. We're proposing to request a $10,000 grant. That would require a $10,000 match on our part. Half of that, or some...
We require a $10,000 grant. We require $10,000 match on our part, or $5,000 match on our part.
It's 50-50.
5,000.
It's a
If we get $10,000, we have to match 5. We have to put up 5.
Right.
correct.
Okay.
Estimated total costs are 10.
Right.
They paid 5.
That's, so the suggestion I make, and I'm the first to admit that the reason we're talking about this right now is that it's come to our attention that money is available and the applications are due in a week. Had this not come, we wouldn't be having this discussion right now.
Right.
It would be, we got enough on our plate, and it's a discussion we know we need to have, but the reality is, here's an opportunity to get someone to help carry the ball here, and so that's why we're having the discussion. It's not about trying to circumvent a logical planning process. It's just we've got a week to figure out whether we can apply for a reasonable grant and whether we can make ethical, responsible, appropriate use of it that would benefit the village. So my thought is, let's spend half of it, or roughly half of it, on hard improvements, whether it's signage, bollards, improved, whatever, making a better connection to the downtown, letting people know how this all fits in. Let's spend the other piece of it on a planning effort to say, okay, we've gotten to this point, we're at this plateau in the farm market, it's really about as successful as it can be because we don't have any more room for it. What could it be at the next stage of its development? That was my thought.
Okay. I don't know what you get for $5,000.
I do want to add that all of these things that are in here are suggestions that our market management company has been suggesting to us for years. That, could you look into this, can you look into that? I would only be in favor of something that's going to help the farmer pay less or less work off their back, sweat off their back, to set up and bring their goods to market. I'm not looking for anything that isn't going to go directly to benefit those farmers. I'm not looking to help. I'm sorry, Miriam, but I mean, you do a great job, but I'm not looking to help her at all, but I'm looking to help the farmers. And if these things will help the farmer, I mean, I don't think a cooking demonstration, equipment such as refrigeration, electric, yeah, that's all great. We do all that stuff, but do we need it? Not necessarily. Will that help the farmer? Not necessarily. They donate the goods to do that anyway. but maybe a structure so they don't have to bring tents would help them. It would be less money for them. I don't know. So that would be my objective, is something that would help enhance them, not give them have to pay more money to be here. And one of the things is that we do bring in, the Village of Pleasantville does drop off of larger trash bins at market times, and we do need special signage because there's no parking in certain areas. We have that special signage, but it doesn't say for farmers market. It could be specific for that. That will all help the market in those ways, those structural things. Right away, it will help them. It will help us that we don't have to drive. If there's permanent bins of garbage there that are better and more compatible to the market trash versus what we have around the village now, that would help us, because now our guys don't have to go there and drop it off every Saturday morning. You know, they don't have to go there and set it up every Saturday morning. They don't have to post the no parking signs every
So what about this
Friday.
conceptual engineering part, or this consulting part that we'd spend half this money on? Are you in favor of that, or would not be?
Well, you know, I'm, you know, again, I'm leery. I know, Steve, you feel like I'm, you know, anticipating, I won't even tell you what my father-in-law calls it, but I'm anticipating bad things with it. But you know, if we can give a permanent structure, if we could put a permanent structure out there and something that we're not going to have to change 3 years from now, like if we had a little bit of a plan, or maybe you know, they can, you know, show us that by design what we could do that wouldn't we could take down, that could work around the trees that we have there now. I worry about that, you know, too, the root structure there. I mean, there's a lot of problems with setting up when we set up there. I mean, there's a lot of thought. I mean, there is meeting after meeting, right, Patty, that we go through with the market management company on where she's going to put who, where the people are going to walk, who's going to park where, how big this guy's tent is, how big this person's. It is enormously difficult to organize. And when if there's maybe just a structure, it may be less difficult. You know, it may be, but that would be something that somebody would have to. You know, I'm not an expert. I would say that it would help the farmers, yes.
It seems like some of this stuff is pretty peculiar to farmer and farmer market type setups that not everybody in the world knows about.
Yeah.
I mean, how many people who do urban design ever do a farmer's market and get
well, there
into
actually is.
you know.
Miriam has given me, she's given me pictures and companies that do just this. You know, and over the years, right, Patty, we've gotten a number of things.
Even for this grant, I just Googled it, and there's plenty of, you know, farmers market designs, you know,
Well,
images and sign plans.
I mean, and that's why I think it makes sense to send some of it right now on the improvements that we need, and some of it on, you know, it's a small amount of money that sort of tees up what may happen next.
We need to do a capacity analysis. I think that's the cleanest way to look at it.
What do you mean by that?
You know, it doesn't really matter what we could do next if we don't have the space for it. So we
In
might
terms
as
of
well.
parking as well as
Right.
space for vendors, I mean.
It would be practical to have, you know,
But what do we
somebody
get for
look at the capacity.
$5,000? I mean, you know, everything
that,
that we've looked
you
at,
know.
you almost don't even get a signature page for $5,000 anymore with these guys.
Well, you'd be surprised. I mean, that whole downtown parking study that, you know.
I trust you on that then,
Yeah,
right?
you know.
Do you think we should spend more, John?
Just about
To make sure we get
$20,000.
to make sure we get enough.
Let me.
I'm not sure which way we're going here.
One more
We
time
shouldn't
on that.
spend because
I have no problem spending money if you know, if it's something that's a clear need. I have a real problem spending one-off because I've just done this before in my work career, is that you spend way more money when you don't have a plan. So you're doing these little tweaks around the edges without a plan. You spend a lot more money than if you actually have a plan that you're working towards. And so.
But isn't that what we're talking about?
No, you're talking about one little component of a much bigger project down there, or maybe we're not. I don't know. But again, mind you, maybe the four of you do know, and I'm the only one that doesn't get it on the board, which is fine. But I don't see how this works into the general plan yet. You know, what is the general plan?
You mean the general plan of Memorial Plaza?
Yeah.
Well, if we could identify the general plan of Memorial Plaza tomorrow, we would have succeeded where decades of boards have
Granted.
failed. So we are...
It's the Pleasantville Unified Field Theory.
Yes.
Our goal as part of that is I do think...
Look.
No,
I don't mean to
the Central Business District Committee, led by Steve Lopez, Peter Eschweiler, and Peter Russell, and 50 or more volunteers, have pushed this ball farther down the field than it has ever been pushed in my tenure on this board. And I'm anxious to make sure that we take advantage of that momentum and end up in the place. It's really the same discussion we were having with the Affordable Housing Group interested in a project there, which is to say it's our job to create a context in which things can happen. In the end, it will be the private sector that will make those things happen. And the farm market has turned into a great draw for the Village of Pleasantville. We're getting hundreds, if not even more than 1,000, am I right? People coming to the Village of Pleasantville on Saturday. They're from all over the region. Our goal is that they want to come to Pleasantville, and we hope they buy other stuff and patronize our other businesses. And the downtown becomes a vibrant hub that will actually have enough roots to sprout some further development and ultimately both create a real live downtown and help with the tax issue.
Well,
So,
most importantly, too, the farmers want to come.
I mean, I love this
When the
town.
farmers want to come, that's what killed, that when we first started, remember, it was like, you only have 4 farmers. Well, you don't have enough people. So, it was like,
I know.
we were so
I know.
stuck.
Well, it's right.
It was like, well, we'll get
was a
more
very slow start.
farmers if more of you will come, but then we don't want to come unless
Yeah, I
there's
know.
enough farmers. So it was just.
That's why it's so great that it came to where it is today.
It's really,
It's
but
just a
it
miracle.
was a lot of hard work to get
Yeah,
there.
it was very slow.
Tremendously difficult to get there.
That's right.
I mean,
And the success is apparent. We have vendors who used to come every 2 weeks, now come every week.
they want to come.
Right,
They're banging
right.
the door down, and
Right,
they want
so-
to come every week. So that's
And,
a really good thing.
It's both,
like-
it's the age-old challenge, how do you balance all these competing needs? We're not talking about a large sum of money. The state has some money out there. I think I'd divide it up, partly buy stuff we need now, partly think about the future.
I guess the only reason that we started into this is that when you're talking about permanent things, if
It's
the
frustrating,
state
right?
only wants permanent things,
Right.
then we sort of lock ourselves into what we have. That's what
But
I'm
as you will
concerned about.
note, they will
That's
fund,
the issue, right there.
they will fund
What?
architectural services and the like. So, you know what? Here's my take on it. We've got some work to do to clarify what the best proposal would be to the state. It's due in a week, and we'll
We
work with
can.
Patty on it
Right.
Yeah,
to make it happen. So, if it seems to me that the
It's just, if I know
Right.
we're going to have to spend some money on just site amenities, why not get
That's
things
And
at half
we
price?
do spend money
Right.
on the
Right.
site
do-
anyway.
There's certain things
We
I
put
do need.
wood chips
So we'll put it
down,
in.
we cut, we prune things, we make things,
All right, so recognizing that we can read this resolution as a flexible mission that will get clarified with a group of us with Patty in the next week. Did we have a second on that?
I think it was me.
It
Yeah.
was you?
Oh,
Was
yeah.
that last week that happened?
Yeah, I think so.
Good memory.
Sorry, Sidney.
I'm done, at least
All-
it's not
okay.
150 degrees. That's
All in
I have
favor
to
to
say.
authorize the submission of farmers market grant for market amenities in the amount of $10,000?
Aye.
Aye.
Aye. Motion approved.
Resolved, that's me, right?
Yeah, I think so.
It was you, Steve, right?
You can take it.
No, am I right? Yes. Okay. Resolved that the Board of Trustees authorizes residents of Romer Avenue, why weren't we invited, Brian, to hold a block party on
I
August
wasn't
8,
invited.
2009, between the hours of 2 p.m. and 11 p.m., with a rain date for Sunday, August 9th.
Well, we could always amend this to
Yeah.
invite others,
Invite-
ourselves.
With the
I
Board of
already
Trustees.
warned them that
Is
the
there
board
a
will
second
show
about
up.
the block party on
Second,
Romer
I
Avenue?
better second that.
Would anyone like to explore a farm market on Romer Avenue?
Yeah.
Good idea.
All in favor?
Public consultant.
Aye. Motion approved.
Brian can be the consultant.
Jonathan.
Okay. Whereas in accordance with the village finance law, any monies advanced from one fund to another must be repaid with interest from the receiving fund, and whereas the general fund is transferring money to the water fund for expenses it incurred for engineering services in anticipation of financing a water fund project known as the Hayes Hill Green Meadow Water Main Project, now therefore be it resolved that the Board of Trustees hereby sets an intra-fund interest rate charge of 1% to be for intra-fund transfers made pursuant to the provisions in the village finance law.
Is there a second?
Second, but I have a question.
Patty, you want to
Yeah,
describe?
it was hard to write. I tried to write it cleanly, but if you recall, about a month ago, we engaged PCI to do the design work for Hayes Hill Green Meadow drainage. The water fund does not have a capital account set up for that at this point in time. There hadn't been any money appropriated, and the water fund has a very small fund balance, if you remember. So what we need to do is fund that engineering effort, and we can fund it with other fund balances, like the general fund. But the law does require that if one fund transfer money to another, you have to lend it at an interest rate that's a fair market rate. Well, we're only getting 0.2% interest in the bank. You may have seen Mary's little note
Right.
that we're not getting any interest. You know, so it's not really costing us anything to use that money for those purposes. But when we do finance the project, if we do finance the project, we would the general fund would be reimbursed the money that it advanced for the capital, and
All right,
all
so
of that
why
money
are
would
we
be
setting
rolled in.
the interest rate at 1%? How is that determined?
Just
Like, could we set it at
0.2%?
0.05?
Sure, yeah. I mean, you
Because
know.
we're lending money to ourselves, basically,
Well,
right?
not exactly.
No?
Recognize that the reason we have these
It's a
different
different-
funds is that they benefit different groups. And the water fund benefits a significantly larger group
Almost like
than
school district.
than the general
Yeah,
fund.
right.
Well, I think what we should do is set this to, you know, some sort of flexible rate, like 3-month T-bills or something like
Yeah,
that,
that's
so
fair.
that we're not
Right.
coming back here if there's a spike in interest rates,
Right,
and
right,
and all of a
that's fair.
sudden, the water fund is arbitraging the village residents because they're only paying 1%. So
That's
I
fair.
suspect that, you know, I think that what we should do is say, you know, it should be, you know, 1-year T-bill
Plus
rates.
0.5% or something, or not at all, or just what the
Although
Well,
rate
right
is.
now, I think that's less than 1%, 1-year
Yeah,
T-bill
I
rate,
think it is
so.
too.
I mean, isn't this a one-off resolution referring only to in effect, the borrowing, the advance of money for PCI's engineering services for this one project?
That's right.
This is not a resolution
this-
for
this-
the
Not for the
ongoing
whole
future.
project, no,
Well-
no, just until we can decide whether or not we're going to go ahead with financing it.
So this
Engineering
last paragraph
services.
sounds like, I mean, it sounds like we're setting a 1% rate for inter-fund transfers made pursuant to the provisions of the village finance law. That
Only
doesn't-
for this project, though. I mean, we don't have anything else. We've never really done this before. You know, we
I mean,
rarely
in
lend
essence, we
money
would be
from one
using
fund to
water
another.
fund balance. It just, there isn't water fund
That's
fund
right.
balance.
That's right.
So perhaps we should modify that last paragraph, as Jonathan noted,
Right.
to say an interfund interest rate charge of 1% for the Hayes Hill Green Meadow project.
Right, or whatever,
Yeah, if it's only one-off, then let's just.
yeah, whatever the 1-year treasury rate is
Yeah.
All right.
at the point of transfer. I mean, we
Okay.
can do that.
So can we
That's fine.
modify the
Yeah.
And when we
mover
get-
and the seconder agree to that modification? It will say the interfund interest rate charge of 1% for the Hayes Hill Green Meadow water main project for interfund transfers made pursuant. Right?
And,
Okay.
but we get paid back when they capitalize this,
Yes.
for the water.
And
for
if
the
they
general
don't,
fund.
we just pay back.
Yeah, yeah.
Right.
We have to
So,
pay back.
Again, for those watching, we're advancing money of the general fund to pay for the design of this project at the point at which it goes forward, and this is the replacement of a water main that has a significant failure rate for us. It will be bonded, and then it'll be bonded within the water fund, which benefits the people who are water customers, which is different and bigger group than just the village, and we'll pay it back. So, all right, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye, motion. Right.
Resolved that the Board of Trustees authorizes residents of the village authorizes the village administrator to engage the services of John Imbiano of IQ Landscape Architects to assist the Central Business District Master Plan Committee in the development of preliminary design guidelines. Said scope of work set forth in the attached proposal shall not exceed $10,000.
Is there a second?
Second.
Patty, I've modified this resolution to say, to prepare conceptual urban design plans, because we're not really hiring him for a design guidelines project.
I have a question too, Peter.
Yeah, I just want to see how you wrote up the scope, and that's fine.
What's your thought?
The project deliverables are a separate item, and if, I was just curious if that's a separate item, and the last listed on page 5 of 6 under fee schedule, what is deliverable under preliminary design?
Task 1, preliminary design, shall be a lump sum fee of $10,000. So that goes back to scope of work on page 2 of 6. Task 1 is preliminary design. The result of that thing would be we had a meeting with Bjorn Slate from the design committee of the CBD group. The idea there was, in essence, to create an annotated plan of the downtown district. John's proposal includes developing urban design planning guidelines for streetscapes and this, that, and the other thing. All worthy goals, but not a piece of work that we were ready to bite off at the moment. And neither were we ready to bite off the fee that was attached to it. And both Bjorn and Nat, leading the design committee, felt that what was really needed here was some professional input to take their schematic idea for Memorial Plaza and to turn it into a couple of steps further down the road. In other words, really to vet it against turning radiuses and parking space geometry and all of that, and say, okay, well, here's how it has to be pushed around really to work.
So my only point was that with regard to the preliminary design, there would be some sort of deliverables.
Yes.
And the wording of the, I didn't want the wording of the proposal to suggest that there would be project deliverables only when and after final design and urban
Yes,
design
you are right.
at a separate number. I just want to make the distinction that there would be deliverables associated with preliminary design as well, of some sort.
I agree. And I think that was pretty clear in the meeting we had with John. He just hasn't made it clear in this proposal. Would you agree, Patty?
Yeah, that's fair. I mean, his item 1D says that we would be meeting to review concepts, but that doesn't mean they're
Right.
deliverable.
So, in essence, I don't have any doubt that he knows that he meant what we discussed, because we were all very clear in the meeting.
I'll
So,
talk with him.
It seems to me that we can approve this based on that modest clarification in the proposal there. And then I would also add to that.
So his deliverables will include all of his alternative concepts developed with the central business
Yeah,
district.
The preliminary design should have its own deliverables separate
Right.
from what he was referring to. in that
Not
other-
a book, not a whole report. Bjorn's goal, and I think it's quite logical, is it's in essence an annotated plan, a big annotated plan. The worksheet that shows the thinking pattern and the result that thinking led to. And also, we'd like to make sure that's included in that we can get that in electronic form as well as a PDF to make it easy to distribute.
Okay.
All right. So subject to those modifications, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Motion approved. That's it. That was the last of our resolutions. Any comments from anyone else? 769-1677. Anybody from the audience?
He's sleeping. He's like, he fell asleep during the farmer's market.
I appreciate your staying. Thank you. There being no further business, be reminded that we will be, as mentioned, on an every other week schedule for July and August. So our next meeting is Monday, August 10. We look forward to seeing you then. There a motion to adjourn?
So much.
Second.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Good night. Thank you. See you in 2 weeks.
All right.